Thank you all so much for having me here. I'm very grateful that I get to share a little bit of my perspective as a teenager. So, let me get started. What do you think about when you hear a teenager going through puberty? Take a moment, really think about it. Because chances are the words that came to mind weren't exactly flattering. Hormonal, dramatic, awkward phase. Screen-addicted, reckless teenagers who think they know everything but respect nothing. That is the story our modern society tells us about puberty. And we've heard it so many times, we've stopped questioning whether it's the full picture. Here's what I want to ask. Is that truly what puberty is all about? I've been going through puberty for a while now. And while my body has been changing, my mind is still catching up. I feel a little lost. And honestly, I'm not sure where this journey will lead me. And this is coming from someone who has had more guidance than most teenagers of my age. What made it even harder for this generation's teenagers was going through puberty almost entirely alone. No community, no older voices sharing their stories, just biology textbooks. And to add on top of that, a global pandemic, which made even more sure the only things surrounding us were walls. And those walls meant a lot of calls with friends, which I remember were amazing times, but they were also the moment where I started realizing a sad truth. I remember a night we were on a call, and as the conversation went on, I started noticing something. One of my friends was spiraling about something that had happened to her and didn't know how to explain it to me. Another friend was picking fights about things she didn't even understand. And another friend had completely shut down. All of them were struggling in their own way, in their own silence. And at some point, I asked, why don't you just talk about it with your parents? The responses I got back were varied, but they all had one thing in common. They were negative. Some scoffed and laughed, while others, they seemed to stay silent. Oof. I had just assumed that what I had at home was normal, that everyone could ask for guidance when they had a feeling of being lost. They didn't. And when outer guidance finally came, it sounded like this. Don't worry, it's normal. Here's a pad. Here's a pamphlet. Here's a chart of hormones. I remember being in biology class and being shown the female reproductive system for the first time. Well, kind of first time, doesn't matter. And yes, although it did help me understand what was going on biologically speaking, it didn't help me understand the frustrations, the mood swings, the chaos. Just like that, my body became a diagnosis, a medical event to be managed, not a transformation to be proud of. I was taught how to track my cycle, but not how to trust it. I was told about pads and sanitary, but not about power and intuition. I was given products, but never stories. And in that silence, I learned something I'm still unlearning. That my body is something wrong, that it needs to be solved, not a mystery to be celebrated. Today, for all genders, puberty is packaged as an awkward phase. The years you spend rolling your eyes and sighing at your parents, waiting for it all to be over. And yes, for some that's real. I'm not dismissing that. But for me, puberty isn't only an inconvenience. It is an introduction to myself, to who I am and who I might become. That gate was never closed, but puberty was the first time I realized it was there. Childhood hands you experiences, good ones, painful ones, confusing ones. They become the foundation which you stand on, your base of survival. Puberty is where you start to own that foundation, where you stop inheriting your identity and start building your own. And that is exactly why this phase cannot be walked alone. Because when the ground shifts beneath you, you need people who have already crossed that terrain before. Elders, role models, a community that says, I see you, I've been there, let me walk beside you. So let's go back. Back further than our parents, further than our grandparents. In ancient matriarchal civilizations, puberty was not an awkward phase. It was a sacred one. These societies didn't just acknowledge the change from child to adult, they celebrated it. They gathered around it. They honored it as one of the most significant transitions a person could undergo. They used breath, movement, and chanting to help young people feel at home in their changing bodies. They offered mentorship, not pamphlets, presence, not charts. And they understood something profound, that puberty is in many ways a symbolic death. The child you were begins to fade, and in that space, if held properly, something more wise can be resurrected. These civilizations knew this transition would feel chaotic, confrontational, overwhelming. This was never the problem. The problem was facing it alone. So, what do we do with this? We don't need to resurrect ancient rituals, but we do need to resurrect the intention behind them. We need communal recognition, the acknowledgement that this transition matters, that it deserves more than charts and pamphlets or analytical analysis. We need elder-led mentorship, real voices, real stories, real wisdom passed down, not through textbooks, but through relationship. And we need to rewrite our understanding of puberty entirely, not as something to be surviving, but as something to be guided through. With honesty, with community, and with the radical idea that your changing body is not a problem. And I'm choosing to meet this transformation called puberty, with honesty, with intention, to use this passage, not just endure it. I'm learning what to shed, what no longer serves me, and to carry forward what does. The experiences of love, relationship, compassion, and confrontation. The lessons that shape not just who I am, but who I'm becoming. I am deeply grateful for whom walked beside me during this phase. My parents, the older wise men and women who helped me when a pamphlet never could. I look up to them, and I look forward one day into stepping that role myself, to being able to be that voice for someone else, because maybe that is how we find our way towards something more balanced, more whole. A world where every young person crossing this threshold is met, not with silence, but with wisdom and connection. And maybe it starts smaller than we think. If you find yourself near a teenager who seems a little lost like me, then remember you're crossing. Share something real, not a pamphlet, not a warning, a story. That is how wisdom travels from person to person, generation to generation. And before I go, I have to tell you something. I've been practicing this talk, recording myself, watching it back, trying to get it right. And every single time, without fail, I would get distracted. Not by my notes, not by my nerves, until now, but by a pimple on my face. There I'd be, talking about ancient matriarchal civilizations and puberty transformations, and I'd be distracted by a pimple. Some things, it turns out, are timeless. And thank you so much for your time. I hope I was able to bring a new perspective and maybe make this awkward, beautiful, confusing passage feel just a little alone.